Sourdough starter is a living culture of naturally occurring wild yeast and bacteria. It's created by combining flour and water, then allowing it to ferment. It's what gives life to sourdough bread. It's pretty fun to make and really cool knowing that this similar method has been used to make bread for literally thousands of years. Here's how I create an active, ripe starter in 7 days. The first thing you need is a kitchen scale. This will help ensure your measurements are precise. In a clean jar, I'm going to add 100 grams of rye flour, then 125 grams of water. I like to start day one with just rye flour as it has a really high nutrient content, and it's going to give all that natural bacteria something to feed on. Then I'm just going to add 125 grams of warm water, and by warm I mean 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Give that a good mix until it's all combined. You'll see that it's pretty thick at this point, almost paste-like. Then place the lid on top, then set aside on the counter until the same time tomorrow morning. It's day 2, 24 hours have passed, and I can already see a little bit of activity. If yours doesn't look like anything has happened, it's okay. Try placing the jar somewhere warm, where it can maintain a temperature of 74 to 78 degrees. I find that sourdough starter does best in that temperature range. I'm going to empty out my jar while reserving 85 grams of starter from the day before, then adding it back in. This time I'm going to add 50 grams of all-purpose flour, or AP flour, then 50 grams of rye flour. Finally, I'll add 115 grams of warm water. Mix until combined, place the lid on top, and set aside. Here's day 3, and I'm starting to see some bubbles, which is a great sign. That means the yeast and bacteria are starting to feed on the flour mixture. Today I'm going to add 75 grams of carryover starter, as opposed to the 85 I added yesterday. Then once again, I'm going to add 50 grams of all-purpose flour, then 50 grams of rye flour. By the way, if you're off by a gram or two, don't worry. Just roll with it, it'll be fine. Then I'm going to add 115 grams of warm water, give that a mix, place the lid on top, and once again set aside for 24 hours. Just a side note, I never really screw the lid on, I'm just simply placing it on top. We don't want to suffocate the starter. Usually by day 4, I really start to see signs of a healthy starter. It's bubbly, it's starting to smell more pungent. From here on, I'm going to stick with the 75 grams of carryover starter, 50 grams of all-purpose flour, 50 grams of rye flour, and 115 grams of water. That is the formula that I will use for the starter from here on out. Day 5, once again, I'm going to stick with the same ratio of starter, flour, and water. I'll also note that you don't necessarily have to feed your starter every day. If you want to take a break from the everyday feedings, just stick it in the fridge, which will slow down the fermentation process. Take it out at any time, and just continue with the normal schedule until it becomes active again. By day 6, it should be about ready to use. I like to feed mine in the morning. It's just become routine for me. And you'll have to figure out what works best for you and your schedule. Also, feel free to play around with the ratios or types of flour. You can use just AP flour, just rye, wheat and rye, so on and so forth. There's no one way to do this. After some time, you'll be able to accurately predict the rise and fall of your starter. The idea is to use it when it's at its peak. I find my starter usually peaks 3 to 4 hours after feeding. By day 7, the starter should be ready for its first actual use. This is the ratio and schedule that works for me, allowing me to make some truly wonderful bread. I'll make another video soon that will go through some of the cool things that you can do with the sourdough discard, besides just throwing it in the trash. Don't be discouraged if it takes you a little while to master sourdough. It's a notoriously tricky bread, but once you get the hang of it, it really becomes an enjoyable process. As always, ingredients will be in the description. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.